This episode is brought to you by Savio House. The holidays are so much more than the hustle and bustle of finding the greatest presents. It's about finding the magic in the little moments of spending time with family. Across Denver, kids are at risk of being separated from the only home they know due to life's toughest obstacles: addiction, violence, legal trouble. Savio steps in when crisis happens to get families back on track and make sure young people grow up with a loving family. Donate today at saviohouse.org/CityCast. That's SAVIO house.org/CityCast. Today on CityCast Denver, will local liquor stores make it through the holiday season? And who's to blame if they don't? We're talking about all the latest food news today, from wine sales in grocery stores to the TikToker who ate over 14 pounds of food in a single day. Plus, our picks for your weekend. Today is Thursday, November 30th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Newsletter editor Peyton Garcia, good morning.
Good morning, Bree.
Executive producer Paul Caroli, hi.
Hey, good morning, Bree. Thank you for my full formal title. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I will ignore the disrespect of every previous introduction.
I just thought about it because I saw it in an email or something, and I was like, oh yeah, Paul's executive producer now. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
My wife is making fun of me. She's calling me Dick Wolf.
Bum, bum, da, 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 da. That's rules, actually. Good call, Megan. Good joke. 100%.
She's always right.
10 out of 10. No notes. Tell Megan. Thank you. But we're not talking about Law and Order today. We're talking about food. We're talking about food news. We're looking at a story about how local liquor stores are doing since the wine in grocery stores legislation passed. So last November, we voted as a state to make it okay for grocery stores to sell wine. So prior to this, they could sell just beer. Is that right, you guys? I can't remember.
I think so. That's what I remember.
I believe so. But it was a big deal because then I've complained several times that half my grocery store became a wine store. King Soopers is now a wine store. But
yes.
Which is something else. But so CPR went out and talked to some local liquor store owners to see how they were doing. This legislation went into effect in March. I think they were probably checking in. It seemed to me it's like this is a time. This is a season. It's shopping like anything else. But it's a holiday time. So we're buying liquor for parties and, all kinds of things. And so they looked at, and they talked to a couple owners of local liquor stores, and they basically are kind of like, we're waiting to see, but so far it's kind of not been great for them. And I know that local liquor stores really, really campaigned hard to get folks to vote against it, because essentially it's taking that stop that you might make after the grocery store at the local liquor store and putting it into an option in the grocery store. Paul, where do you land on this, like buying wine at the grocery store?
I mean, my mind always goes to my neighborhood liquor store, what was my second favorite place to go buy alcohol in my neighborhood. But, here's the update since last time. It's still closed. Grapevine Liquors on Monaco closed in the wake of this vote. I remember talking to the clerk there, and he said, it's not just losing wine, but it's the steady chipping away. It's the wine and beer just together, coming together, rolling up into this impact that just made it not worth it for them anymore.
Yeah.
So, am I crying for the local liquor store owners? I don't know. Is that an important part of our local culture? That's kind of what was interesting to me about this article, was how it compared Colorado to other states, and how the tourism in mountain towns especially is leading to different kinds of impact on liquor sales here. Because I guess according to this guy who runs this alcohol trade group, he was liquor stores in resort communities are getting hit harder than those on the Front Range, because presumably all these tourists are already used to buying wine in grocery stores, and I don't know. I thought that was fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking about it a little differently because I read that too, but I see what he's saying in that like maybe their habits are already a certain way based on where they live versus just I'm in a new town, I'm stopping for a night, I'm already at the grocery store, I'll just grab some wine versus going down the strip mall to the local, wine shop or whatever. Paige, do you have a devoted local liquor store in Erie that you go to?
Actually, yeah. So there isn't a lot out here in Erie. And the nearest King Soopers, the nearest grocery store at all is a King Soopers that's an 8-minute drive away from my house. But there's a liquor store that's only a 3-minute drive from my house. So that tends to be where we get our alcohol. However, I would be lying if I didn't say that I tend to go for what's most convenient. So if I'm at home and I'm trying to make a run, I'll just hit up the local liquor store. But if I'm at Costco, I'm going to get my wine from Costco because they have great deals. If I'm at King Soopers and I'm on a time crunch, I'm going to just get my wine from King Soopers. So, I mean, I think when they passed this measure, they were banking on all the people who put convenience first. And I think that that's most Americans.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You know what the secret is?
What?
Drive-through liquor stores. My mom has one near her house, and that's the one she always hits up because convenience. And she's lazy and doesn't want to get out of her car, so she just goes through the drive-through liquor store.
Well, that's the thing, though, with these liquor stores. You have to offer something different now. You can't just offer the basics to compete with, like, what King Soopers will stock, which will be like very simple, broad products or in maybe a small number of categories. So you could be like a specialty wine store and still maintain your market. But if you're just going to be a liquor store that sells that same stuff, you're probably not going to be surviving right now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, because obviously you're not going to be asking the teenage grocery stocker for wine recommendations at King Soopers. But if I wanted to get something really nice to pair with a nice dinner that I'm hosting, I'm going to go to a liquor store and ask for their recommendations. Is that going to be enough to keep these people in business? My occasional dinner party that requires a nice wine? I don't know. Probably not. But I think that Paul's right. That's the way you have to think about it now, because if not, convenience is going to win every single time.
Yeah, the convenience thing is interesting too, because it depends on what's convenient for you. So like the liquor store owner that they talked to for this story in CPR, Dewey Kratzer owns Mondo Vino, which is at 32nd and Lowell. That's a kind of a walkable neighborhood, right? Folks that live around that may be more apt to walk there, as to where no, that's not true. You can see Bungalow Liquors from my front porch, and my husband does walk to it regularly. I don't like it because he has to walk through one of the most dangerous intersections in the city, and so it makes me nervous. But that convenience factor really kind of depends on where you live and or what, because the driving thing too is drive-throughs are a lot easier, especially when you're in the suburbs. You know what I mean? So but yeah, I don't know. I thought a little bit about that, and the idea that you were saying about someone that knows wine, the wine expert, and Mondo Vino on the north side, I know is one of these places, and they kind of describe it as like people come in to talk to him about wine. So, but is that going to keep him in business? I don't know if that's enough. You know what I mean? And in a quote from Dewey Kratzer, who owns Mondo Vino, he said, "You basically work the last 2 months of the year to get you through the first 3 months of the next year. It's just typically what the industry is." That's retail in general. November, December, you're doing all your numbers before the dead zone of kind of before spring hits. All right, our next story is about this competitive eater, Rena Huang, who recently came to Colorado. And the headline here was that she ate 7 pounds of noodles and a 7-pound burrito in one day, which is wild. But I think the kicker of this story was this is not her first time to Colorado. This is actually her 5th time to Denver. And Lily O'Neill at the Denver Post said that she was here this time primarily to eat at Asian eateries. But she had been here in 2021 and she was kicked out of a now closed pizza joint called Steve-O's Pizza and Ribs after the owner was apparently upset and accused her of being a professional competitor trying to scam his business, which I didn't know was a problem that
That guy is so misguided. He has got this completely upside down. This guy, I read this article, I watched this video. He was like, this was a few months ago, but I watched this. He's like angry that she's going to come in and broadcast his terrible restaurant to millions of people.
Yeah.
All of these potential customers because you don't want to get scammed on losing $100 for your food contest. Are you kidding me, man? Like,
Yeah, that you can't buy
what world do you live in?
You can't buy advertising for $100 that would reach that many people. Like, there's just
He must have been having a bad day because that was like absurd to me.
I agree, and I think what was kind of a bummer was he wouldn't comment, but his daughter commented and was like, we are so sorry to her.
Yeah.
We are very embarrassed.
He made a mistake.
Something that caught me though that Rena, this TikToker in question said was, I'm not a professional eater because I'm not part of the professional eating league and I don't compete in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So that is apparently where the line is drawn.
I know that was kind of confusing to me because she was like very adamant, like I am not a professional competitive eater, but she's competitively eating.
Well, I don't think she's a professional eater. I think she's a professional like influencer,
YouTuber.
media, YouTuber personality, you know? Because that's where her money's coming from, not the restaurants,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Okay.
She's getting like, well, actually, I don't know where she's getting like sponsorship money from. Some of these guys have big sponsorship deals, these competitive eaters. I used to be very into this. There's lots of money in this. Like these people are very popular.
Who sponsors a competitive eater? Just a restaurant?
Yeah, food brands, just all kinds
And
of that
when you
kind
say
of stuff.
very into this, Paul, were you considering a career in competitive eating?
And speaking of bearing the lead.
No, I never had the stomach for it, Peyton, unfortunately. It is impressive, though. I find it very impressive, the athleticism of eating to excess to the point that some of these people do. I always bought into that. I love it.
I mean, every time like I watch videos or when I was reading these and I was watching some videos of Rena's, I was like, all I can think the entire time is how is she doing this? How? And there was a Denver Post article about a competitive eater who's based in Greeley. Her name is Mary Bowers. And she had a really great quote. Well, the Denver Post article says, Bowers' typical strategy is to prime her stomach with lots of liquids to stretch it out ahead of time, and she uses a glass of water to dunk her buns in, because she does the hot dog eating contest, before eating them in the competition. She said hot dogs are one of the more difficult competitive bites and require plenty of technique in terms of timing and rhythm. So there's like strategy that goes into this. It blows my mind.
The other thing that I thought about, though, Pay, was like, we really enjoy food. You and I, we joke. When we go out to eat with our husbands, it makes them crazy because we want an appetizer and we want a fancy drink and we want an entree and we want a dessert and we want an after dinner drink and we want everything.
Yes.
So it's about the presentation and the different flavors and the going to my favorite restaurant. How do you see this fit into your idea of like when you think about what you think is wonderful about dining or different cuisines? I don't know.
That is such a good question for this conversation because I mean you're right. I'm somebody who loves food and I'm somebody who loves to eat, and I do it completely opposite of people like Rena. Like I like to take my time. I like it to be a long drawn out thing. I like to savor every single bite. So then my question is, can you enjoy what you're eating if you're quite literally scarfing it down as fast as you can? I mean, she's obviously enjoying what she's doing. She's taking pleasure in what she's doing, but I don't think it's because of the food. I think it's the victory, maybe the like adrenaline.
Yes.
Exactly. She's an athlete.
Yeah.
She's an
That's a good way to
entertainer.
put it.
That's why we're watching. That's why all of us who are so into this are watching. Because of the aspiration, the pursuit of excellence. You know, that's what it's about. I have a good answer for your question, Bree. It's inspiration. That's the role she plays in my dining experience. She's going to these places. She's devouring these things. She's loving these dishes. She's going to restaurants I've never heard of. You know, I would never have heard of Chilin in Aurora's Stanley Marketplace. I didn't know about these places. They seem great. This food seems great. I'd love to try one.
I only know about it because they have a really cool sign sort of out front, which is just a giant bowl of ramen that's like sort of moving up and down with the chopsticks. Have you seen that?
I do know that place.
It looks like the ramen's kind of levitating. Paul, I want to push back on that because there's a quote from her that struck me in one of the videos. She said, I like how the meat was minced, so I didn't have to take a long time chewing. How is that enjoyable? How is she enjoying the food? I don't know. I don't know.
She seems to be, and that's what shows in the video.
I mean, for
she
some of them,
seems
for
like she's
sure.
having a good time.
For some
it's
of
performance.
them, I mean, because here's the difference that I noticed when it's just like, how fast can you eat a 7-pound burrito? She kind of takes her time. Takes her time, as much time as a competitive food eater takes, but she like takes her time. She kind of enjoys the meal. She kind of banters with the crowd or with the owner or the chef. But if you watched any of the challenges where she's on a time limit, totally different. I watched her eat a 3-pound burger in less than 5 minutes, and like her whole demeanor changes. Like she's like squishing the burger up in her hand so that it's easier to stuff down. So I mean, like, definitely different depending on the situation.
Good distinction, Pay. You're right. She does both, because I watched the video where she went to Brian's dumpling house.
Yeah.
Brian's dumpling house in the DTC, and it was a totally different video. You're right. She's back in the kitchen watching them make dumplings, asking questions about the recipes, really digging into her food knowledge about what makes these types of dumplings different. She makes her own sauce for him at the table. So you're right. She's taking a sort of versatile approach to this conversation about food while making it about competitive eating, as well as, because the one about Brian's dumpling house was kind of a feature. It was like a feature-y piece. Like, hey, I went to this place because I wanted to try it out, and here's all the beautiful
I think
things
she
they
does
make.
some vlogging. I think she not only competitively eats, but she likes to eat food and talk about it on her YouTube. Good for her, and I'm happy no one yelled at her this time.
Now we're going to talk about this upcoming weekend. Stuff we're doing, things that looked exciting to us on the calendar across Denver. Peyton, do you want to start with your pick?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I really wanted to do it last holiday season, but I couldn't because I was pregnant. And what I want to do is a Christmas cookie and beer tour. I've exchanged some emails with the owner of the company. It's a company called Denver Microbrew Tour, and they do beer tours around Denver year round, but they have a very short seasonal tour that's on offer. It kicks off today, actually Thursday, and runs through December 28th. And you hit 4 different breweries in the Rhino area. You get to sample like 15 beers, more than 10 beers, I guess, is what the website says. So you get to sample some 10 beers, and then you get to pair it with holiday cookies prepared by a local bakery at each stop. And I freaking love holiday cookies, and I really wanted to do this last year and pair it with some beers. So that starts tonight, and it's $55 per person. It happens Thursdays and Sundays through December. And you're supporting local breweries, a local bakery, a local tour company. It just sounds like a great time. So I'm super stoked to check that out.
Tell me about this beer and cookie combo, because I mean, obviously I don't drink, but even besides that, I'm a milk and cookies person. How does beer and cookies go together? What is that? How does that work for you?
I'm not a beer and cookie expert, but I would say in my experience, just like if you have like a real like rich, dark, fudgy cookie, for instance, you might pair that with like a porter of some sort.
Just like a heavier beer, right?
Yeah, like a dark, heavy, stout porter type beer. But also if you have something that's maybe like a ginger doodle with like some cinnamon or vanilla, you could pair that with like something that's a little bit lighter, like a sweet, caramely, like blonde, I don't know, maybe not a blonde beer, but something like that has hints. So you can find all those like hints of certain flavors in different beers and pair those really well with certain types of cookies. So like a sugar cookie might be with something crisper and lighter versus, like a porter type pairing.
This is making so much more sense to me now.
So I mean, I think
Thank
that
you.
sounds so fun, and you would be supporting local. So that's my pick. Check that out. Denver Microbrew Tour, the Christmas beer and cookies tour.
Awesome.
That sounds
Paul,
incredible.
I know. I was like, Paul, this sounds like something you might enjoy.
I'm looking it up and I'm doing it right now. I'm putting it on my calendar. I would love this. I don't want to bake cookies this year. I just want to eat them.
So fun.
There's nothing better than a fresh baked holiday cookie from a bakery, an expert. That sounds so good. Paul, other than the beer and cookies tour you're going to be doing with Peyton, what else are you looking at?
Well, my pick this weekend well, honestly, just the two restaurants that Rena visited are kind of intriguing to me now. But my pick is there are two buildings that have kind of caught my fancy. And my pick is to just go out of your way, drive past, bike past. There's two buildings that both are claiming to be very green in the way they're branding themselves right now. One says it's the first carbon positive hotel. That's just next to the city and county building. And it looks like an aspen tree. It's very interesting. And the other is the that building in Rhino that has the canyon carved out of it, and they're growing trees and stuff in there. They just totally have caught my imagination, these two buildings. I think we're going to talk about this more on the show soon. I really hope we can find someone who can like put these two things in context, but go take a look. I've been watching them go up. I think they're so interesting.
And I will say, you're being generous by calling that one looking like an aspen tree. I think people have been saying it looks like a cheese grater. But
I can see that too. I talked to the guy who's doing the project. He said it was supposed to look like an aspen tree.
I mean, it reminds me of the articulated wall conversation where people are like, what's the articulated wall? And they're like, oh, the French fry stack. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What are we actually going to call it? That's a good question.
But this is interesting to me to see this conversation about making something green versus the aesthetics of making something like a building green. So
yeah,
I will also be doing this little drive. I like that idea, Paul.
All right, what's yours, Brie?
Baby rave. I'm going to the baby rave. Not just because I got a personal invite from Danny Newman, owner of the Mercury Cafe, who is hosting the baby rave. Danny and I both have toddlers, and he was like, you got to drag your toddler out to this thing. And so it's a daytime dance party for people, for toddlers. Adults must be accompanied by a child, so you can't just wander in as an adult. But it's for kids 5 and under.
Shoot.
I know. Sorry, Paul. Sorry. I mean, it is right up your alley, Paul, because it's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and you'll have already been up for 5 hours. So this could be the middle of your day. But
a little sleepy.
It's $5. Adults are free, $5 for kids. And it's just an hour at the Mercury Cafe Saturday morning to get your wiggles out with a family-friendly DJ. Kids are encouraged, and adults, to bring costumes, glow sticks, musical instruments.
Okay.
Which,
all right.
My son came home this week with a violin that his papa gave him. So we'll maybe be taking our violin to this party, or one of his drums, or... He's really into Fenders right now, pointing out Fender guitars. Fender bass, Mom. I'm playing a Fender bass. So this is, I don't know. This is for parents for sure. But I love the idea of being able to take your kids somewhere for a dance party that's just for them. Because kids have so much energy. This is great.
Okay, that does sound kind of fun.
It's pretty. I think when Benicio's a little bit bigger, it's totally something you would like to do, I think. Jokingly, though, the flyer says anyone named Molly gets in for free. So, all right. Well, that's it. We've got cookies and beer, looking at buildings, dancing babies, lots of stuff happening this weekend. But you can get more where that came from in the Hey Denver newsletter, where Peyton rounds up things to do every day of the week. Go to denver.citycast.fm and sign up for our newsletter, Hey Denver. Peyton, Paul, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, this was great.
Thanks, Brie.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Greeley competitive eater Mary Bowers about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya! From the LA-based TikToker, YouTube star